Um, hey guys. So I finally chose a name for this whole thing, and I thought, if it's not sleepover, and I thought maybe it could be oversleep because it's like a play on words. Plus, it's the whole idea of it doesn't really relate to oversleeping or like sleeping in, but it's good enough for the sleepover vibes. And yeah, so before I upload these types of videos, I would actually show my friends first. And one of the main criticisms really of my entire my entire videography is just audio and maybe the editing, honestly. I'm so bad at audio in general. I'm not an audiophile. I'm so bad at it. My friends an audiophile, they love listening to ASMRs, and I think that's where they got it. I love listening to ASMRs as well. I think recently I've gotten into watching people just eat just like seafood boils, and I don't know why. I'm a very picky eater, and for some reason I love it. I love watching people eat things that I won't eat because it's just enjoyable. And I kind of reflected on that, and I thought about why am I so hooked on these kinds of ASMRs? And it actually started because of mukbangs. I kind of just I love the intimate feeling of just listening to someone rant in such a very normal situation. And by intimate, I'm talking about just a close bonding experience kind of thing. And so I realized why I even love mukbangs is because I'm a listener. I love when people yap. I love when people talk about their day. I love when people share moments of their life with me and stuff. And doing it in such a very in a natural setting, for example, a table where you sit down and eat, that to me is really nice, and it makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel comforted. And I think that's what made me realize why I even did this whole sleepover theme thing, because I thought the sleepover setting is such a perfect place, such a natural place for discussions, just random discussions to even happen, because it could have been about anything. It could have been the theme different, but I just wanted a setting where this is normal. And so yeah, I love listening, and it's not just gossip. I love just listening to people talk about things passionately. I'm not a maths person, but I will sit down and listen to someone who loves math and stuff about, I don't know, calculus and physics and all that, and I just love listening to them just talk about it passionately. Of course I'll get bored eventually, but I love listening. Actually, I'm not a good science person, but oh sorry. I'm not a good science person, but I think the reason why in terms of my class I had high grades in science is because I actually find it so interesting, and I absorbed the teachers just talking about it. I know for some people that listening in class is super hard, but to me, as long as it's interesting, I will absolutely listen. I am focused and I will retain that information as long as it's interesting. So that's me with just random topics in general. And so that's why I also love watching YouTube essays and stuff. Like I said, I'm a lurker. I don't really talk in the comments. I will keep my opinions to myself until now, because I'm talking. So, but yeah, I love listening to just the most obscure and niche YouTube topics ever, and sometimes I'll remember it, sometimes it'll just leave my brain, and I know the general story sometimes, but I never know specifics like names and dates and stuff like that, but I will remember things. And I really love, one of the things that I love about like human histories is how prevalent oral history was, like oral storytelling was, just sitting around in like a campfire of sorts, and just people talking around the fireplace and stuff. And honestly, that's actually how myths kind of form. Just let's say you saw a what's a good one? Like a cyclone, like no, maybe like a tornado, right? You saw one in the distance, and honestly, if you knew nothing about science, then you don't know anything about what's going on, you're probably gonna think, damn, that's a giant. That's like a walking giant right there. Even though it doesn't look anything like a person, the fact that it's like huge and it reaches the sky, oh my god, that's a giant, right? And so these legends, these stories about giants and cyclops and all that, that's probably just from natural phenomenon. But one thing that all cultures have in common is just dragons. And to me, that's so interesting. Or not just dragons, but any like reptilian sort of, sometimes four-legged, sometimes just, it has wings and stuff, and it's huge. That's like the one thing that sort of binds almost all cultures together. But definitely like the major historical, like, old cities, I think. But yeah, I love the fact that cultures who have never interacted with each other have one similar thing. It's like dragons, and I can't help but think that it's just a bunch of like ideas formed together from different like stories and stuff, just combining into one, and it's so interesting. And I love historical like stories, mythologies and stuff. I think the very first mythology I think that people are probably most commonly exposed to is Greek mythology. And aside from like the pantheons, my favorite stories are also just humans having to interact with like these divine entities and such. And I think that's so interesting. Right now there's actually the Sun Wukong story, and it's becoming viral because of the new game that came out. I think it was like Black Myth Sun Wukong, I think that's the title. And it's like a non-stop boss fighting game kind of thing. I don't know, I haven't played it yet. But from what I can see, like with the voice acting and everything, because I wanted to see Sun Wukong like come to life, and his voice in the game, his mannerisms, his personality, it just shines through, and I love it so much. But yeah, I've forgotten how like overpowered he is. Apparently he's like immortal ×7 or ×5. That's so funny to me. In terms of like in the canon books, where specific literatures are often timeless, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I recently like wrote about her for an assignment, because in my opinion, it's probably not my opinion, but that story, Frankenstein, is actually one of the first science fiction stories out there. And because the topic that we were writing about was on sci-fi, I had to mention her. And that story, like, despite how different it is right now, or at least like the issues that she was dealing with during her time, like, I think that story of Frankenstein is it's like exploring the issues of electricity and the pursuit of science and like its ethical boundaries in regards to like, you know, life manipulation, I guess. But today I'd say that in terms of like a modern reading, it's more like relevant in terms of responsibility, like Frankenstein's responsibility. Like we as people and let's say scientists and all that, like they need to have a responsibility with their experiments and their pursuit of knowledge. And one of the issues that is like relevant today, I'd say, is the advent of AI. And eventually, what if they become autonomous? Then obviously we as a society have a responsibility to just think about what AI is going to do in the future. And also, if not AI, there's also genetic manipulation, you know, like Dolly the sheep and like cloning and stuff. Like we need to think about the ethical ramifications of it. But yeah, those are like the questions that Mary Shelley's Frankenstein just, that's why it's so timeless, because you can always find lessons within it that is so relevant today. And that's basically what the canon is, the canon literature, I guess. And yeah, you know what though? Speaking of science fiction, he's, okay, you know H.P. Lovecraft and how he's like sort of the father of cosmic horror, right? The most basic fear is the fear of the unknown. You know, I'm paraphrasing. As you know, or probably noticed, like eldritch themes is like one of my inspirations in general. Like, look at my character's hair. She is actually half eldritch creature and half what's it called, biblically accurate angel kind of thing. That's why I have things with the eyes around. The idea is, lore-wise, her father is like this old god thing, and then her mother is like an angel. That's the lore. But yeah, so like considering my straight up inspiration from cosmic horror and all that, I have to mention the guy. So like I love his influence. I don't love the guy. Like I don't, as an author, he's talented. I've read his stuff. It's super talented. I'd love to write like that one day. But my god, oh my god. The contents are, it's crazy. Oh my god. Yeah, I don't admire the guy as a guy, but his words, his writing is so amazing. It's so pretty. But just, Jesus, the content, my god, like relax. It's problematic. That's all. I think it's a given to say that he's problematic and his views are problematic, and you could make the argument that his what's it called? His paranoia of other people, of other like races, because he's a racist. His paranoia can actually like morph his perceptions, I guess, and it morphed it enough for him to like create this cosmic horror. And I have to admit, most people critique his work by saying like he doesn't say much, he just implies stuff, you know, like he only says like 1,000 arms, 1,000 eyes, and then we just have to like realize that, oh my god, this is like something I can't imagine. And that's the scary part of his works. And some people think that that's not enough. But that's the thing, I love it because it's so otherworldly. The only thing I love about cosmic horror and why it doesn't really scare me as much as it does to others is that I actually love it when like works have themes where it's bigger than people, bigger than us, bigger than the earth, bigger than the universe. I love big things. I love it when things are just bigger than us. Just something you can't really explain, you can't see, you can't comprehend. I love it. And so I love that there's new Eldritch stories coming up, and there's like retellings, but it's a specific genre now where humanity is forced to ask, or forced to understand that we're small. We are like forced to realize that we are not like the center of the universe, you know? Like humanity has to step back and realize that there is something bigger than all of us. I love it. I think recently I watched Jacksepticeye's Still Wakes in the Deep, which is like something eldritch emerges from the ocean after an oil rig like drills into it. And oh my god, I love it so much! I love it so much. Just the visuals of it is so good. One of the things as well that is my favorite in terms of like the cosmic horror kind of stuff is the game Fear and Hunger. And before I encourage people to play it, I just want to say it's filled with like graphic stuff, and it's not for the faint of heart. But basically, in Fear of Hunger, there are old gods, just like old deities that have very ancient powers and stuff. And then there's like this new god and stuff. But there's also just like their influence on the people in the game is so clear that it's scary. There's this storyline for one of the characters where she actually turns into a god of sorts, and the process of that and just the context of it is so, I wouldn't say scary, but it's unimaginable. And you know, you actually just go along this journey with her for her to end up like that, where it's sort of a body horror thing where you kind of like, you're forced to watch as she no longer turns human, but during her transformation she sort of like cries, and she like, I wouldn't say she says stuff, but she does things that are so human that you kind of just second guess yourself, you know? I love stories like that. One of the stories that I'm thinking about as well with that kind of premise is Soma, where your soul gets put into a computer, and then you're kind of like going from computer to computer to like get to this sort of heaven thing called the Ark, right? And like after the game ends, or somewhere around the middle, you realize like when you upload your consciousness into a computer, the previous body remains with your consciousness. So imagine like you upload yourself into the Ark, you remain as you are in those circumstances while your other self continues the journey. And so there's a question where it's like, is that still you? Like, is that like, at what point are you no longer you? Or stuff. You know? I love just questions like that. It's to some people it's it's a bit scary, I'd say. Scary is not the right word. I think it's confronting. But to me, it's... I wouldn't say inspirational, but it's definitely satisfying to think about, because I love to think that maybe we're more than our like bodies, more than our shells, you know? And yeah, that's why I love cosmic horror, because it's just the thought that it's not like this life is just anything but. These stories from the past, stories from now, you know, stories in general, the canon literature, they would all pose questions that are probably even relevant to this day, right? And it's all about the mindset. It's all about your context, your perception, and how you interpret these new texts, these old texts and stuff. Let's go back to like Sun Wukong, because that character, you know, if you don't know that character, he's basically the inspiration for Goku and other similar like characters, because the journey to the West has been so prevalent in like modern culture nowadays. Like the inspiration from it, there's like, it's still going on to this day, you know? Like, for example, people have been like describing the whole journey to the West as like a very, like one of the first D&D campaigns where it's like about 5 people, 5 like, you know, characters. One of them is like Sun Wukong, which is like the completely overpowered character. There's Pigsy, who is like the idiotic yet sort of like comedic relief character, who is like a womanizer at times. And there's like Sandy, who's like, I'd say the straw man of the group. He's like reliable and responsible, and he's just there. He has his moments, of course. There's like the horse, and then there's like the heart, and like this person who keeps everyone in line, and that's Tripitaka? Oh my god, I'm so sorry, it's been a while. But the monk, basically, the monk character. And yeah, it's basically like a modern D&D with just, and it's like episodic as well, with like weekly baddies to fight and stuff. There's like iconic characters throughout. From the top of my head, Erlong, the bull demon king, the bull demon king, is that right? And that guy has a wife that owns like a fan. And there's like who else? Ah, God. There's like the 6-eared macaque. Honestly, like super underrated. I love it. Honestly, I heard he's in the Lego series of Monkey King, the Monkey Kid. I think that's what it's called. And so I'm so interested in actually watching that series now. I don't know if I like it, but I just want to watch it for Macaque, because when I heard him in the story, he just kind of like he sort of just stayed there in my mind. Like, he's living on my mind rent free right now. But yeah, when I heard that he's in the series, I want to watch it. Like, I knew I wanted to watch it. Yeah, so iconic characters, and honestly, I'm so sad that I've never actually watched like live action versions of the, like, how people told the story of Journey to the West, because honestly, it's never really, like, until recently, it's never really something people would talk about. And I'm so happy that they are now, because at one point, like, I was so like mesmerized by it, because it's just so it's simple in a way, but it gives so many like, but I don't know, like you can have deeper readings within it, you know, and I just think that's so nice. When I first heard of like Sun Wukong and the Journey to the West, I can't help but think this is sort of like, you know, I wouldn't say Mary Sue, but that's basically like the people's definition of one is, you know, because think about it, the character is so overpowered, but not overpowered enough that he's like, you know, pain can restrain him, his headband can restrain him. He's not like super overpowered that he's flawless, and he's honestly, he's just unstoppable. Like, that's basically it. It reminds me of like this other work. I think it was like Dante's Inferno. Dante's Inferno? Yeah, Dante's Inferno. The one of the Divine Comedy kind of thing. And it sort of reminds me how, because like Dante's Inferno, if you don't know, it's like a reimagining of the Christian mythology, and you're kind of going through the stages of hell, like the layers of hell and all that. And obviously there's like stories related to the like stories from the Bible, stories from like Christian canon, books from the Christian canon and all that. And not only that, there are characters that the author just kind of put in of people he doesn't like as well. And not only that, the author kind of has like, he wrote himself talking with Virgil, which is like a very old poet at the time, or someone of the sorts. And yeah, it's crazy how people can just do that. But like old writers, honestly, that's crazy to me, because nowadays people aren't gonna fucking accept that. But yeah, it's crazy. But like, I mean, you know, I'm not saying it to be negative. Like, look at it now. Look at Journey to the West now. It's so influential. Like I said, nobody gives a crap if Sun Wukong is literally overpowered enough to say that he's like, he could defeat like the heavenly the celestial court, I think it's what it's called. Like, nobody's batting an eye. They're just accepting, hey, hell yeah, Sun Wukong can kick their asses, you know? He had to be stopped. And to me, that's fucking great, you know? And the whole Divine Comedy, that's also fucking great, you know? Nobody bats an eye at it, but what's stopping you from making your own epic where let me give like an example. Like, there's a little fish born from a pearl who decided she was gonna be the next she's gonna be the next like Eros or something from like Greek mythology. And then Eros, that new fish, sort of wanted to fight I don't know, the Cinderella character from the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, which, hey, that's also a book from like small mythologies, just from people like the Brothers Grimm. I think this is how the story went. The Brothers Grimm went around, I think, Europe, and sort of collected every story they could find and put it under this book. And it's like, it's not really like a well-known mythology, it's just small folk tales from these small villages and stuff. Like, there's a reason why it's called folk tale. It's folks, like, you know, like groups of people and their stories, you know. In the Philippines, I actually have grown with a few stories. I can't share them. I mean, I can, because mostly I forgot, but I think one of the stories that my grandma taught me or told me was like stories of manananggals and aswangs and stuff. And one of her stories, personal stories, is that when she was young, and I'm not sure, but I'm assuming that one of her like neighbors was pregnant, and at night she could hear like a specific sound. I don't know how it went. It's like, oh, I don't remember how the sound went, but it's a specific sound. It's like so scary when she was talking about it, but it was so scary. And basically, there are these creatures in the Philippines that would eat babies from pregnant women. And there's also stories of capres, I think, but they're nice. Apparently, they just like smoke in the trees. I don't know, I'm just sharing my own personal stories. What else? There's shokois that are like lake nymphs or lake mermaids that would pull children and drown them. Not just children, probably just any adult they could find. And my friend recently told me of this story from a specific region in the Philippines where like a mermaid wanted to like marry a boy, but for, you know, obvious reasons they couldn't be together. I don't know, but now there's like a statue of her somewhere in the Philippines. I don't know, that's really cute. So yeah, storytelling and folk tales, I love it. I love it, especially when these folk tales are actually from like an event of sorts, and that's what got people to start talking and stuff. Start like it's basically people's theories on just natural phenomena that they just can't like understand or can't they don't have answers to. And I love it so much. Like, think about it this way, right? Like a tsunami, let's say. You saw just a huge wall of water, and wouldn't you think that that's a god? Like, not like the wall of water, but like that's like a god was so angry that just, you know, they just threw water at you, like a whole wall of water. That's so cool to me. I also love the idea that back in the day, you know, there was no electricity, there's barely any lights around, and if you can't get a fire going at night, then you'll just be stuck in the dark. And we all know about what's it called? Like your senses. When you have lack of senses, when you lack senses, sorry, your mind just starts hallucinating random stuff. And I just can't help but think that some stories are just from people dealing with certain events that they can't explain. And I love it so much. Yeah, that's crazy. You know, modern, oh my god, this is way too long now. Okay, this is way too long. Sorry, I'm trying to limit myself in how long I can keep talking. Here's my reflection for you today. I want you to reflect on your fears, okay? I'm not talking about phobias or anything intangible like, I don't know, loneliness or heights and thalassophobia. I want you to think about the physical embodiment of your fear, okay? Like, here's an example. For some reason, I hate when I see like hands get like, you know how like, I don't know, I think it was Jigsaw, not Jaws. It was in Jigsaw where I think one of the traps is related to like hands and needles being You know, you're gonna have to like climb or crawl through a floor of needles, right? Ugh, ugh. I hated that. I hate when things go through hands. It's specifically hands, by the way. Like, I don't care about fate. It's the hands. If anything gory happens to hands, ugh. Like, I've watched like zombie movies and hands being bit. Like, I don't care about that. But when sharp things goes through hands, ugh, no thanks. But yeah, it's not just that I want you to like imagine. It's also like, just what is it that you don't want to see? You know what? My biggest fear, physical embodiment of my fear, is actually like Jeff the Killer. I don't like it. I like it's a combination of things. Not literally Jeff the Killer, by the way, but he is a visual representation of what I don't want to see. One thing that my mind can scare me off in terms of like visually is just eyes looking at you in a sort of intense way, right? Just looking at you and also smiling while smiling, like intensely smiling and looking at you. And that's why I say Jeff the Killer is such a great visual representation of what I don't want to see, is because literally intense eyes, unblinking with a big smile. That's crazy. And the fact that he's human, because some creepypastas are like inhuman, and to me that's like, okay, cool. But he's just straight up a hoodie, yeah, and he has like black hair, and sometimes he has his hoodie up and it's all bloody. Can you imagine just that outline in the middle of a street, and then he whips his head around and you see just a smile? Like memes aside, because Jeff the Killer is like, to some people, a hottie. Memes aside, that's creepy, and I love it. I love the idea of it. The fact that he's a killer, I love it. Anyways, this is getting too long. I want to keep talking about creepypastas, actually. Maybe next episode or so. So yeah. I'm so sorry if today was a bit, like, over the place. It's just... Yeah, so reflect on your fears and don't get nightmares tonight. Just, you know, I don't want you to get nightmares. I hope you sleep well tonight, and thank you for listening to my rambles. So, I'm gonna skedaddle now. I'm gonna sleep. You go to sleep, and yeah, we'll talk tomorrow. Thank you. Bye bye.